Hello there, my name's David Holden, naturopathic physician and nutritional biochemist. And I'm here with my very dear friend, Dr. Bruce Lipton, PhD, to discuss a whole manner of subjects that's in my new book, Natural Medicine 101 for Not So Dummies. And we assume you're not dummies by watching this.
Yeah.
So, Bruce is well known to most of you. For those of you who don't know, Bruce has written 3 epic books, The Biology of Belief. What year was that, Bruce?
10 years ago now, 10th anniversary.
And you've done your 10th anniversary edition?
It's coming out in this fall.
I look forward to that. Great. Are you putting new chapters in it, or?
Actually, what the real exciting part is that I was going to revise it and update it, and then I hadn't read it for so many years that I read it, and then I realized I don't have to change a word in the original part.
Wonderful.
So what I'm doing is adding at the end of each chapter what has happened in the last 10 years to support and endorse this. So it's been endorsed by 10 years of front-edge science.
Brilliant. And it's, of course, validating exactly what you've been saying.
Absolutely, which makes life so much easier.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then my favorite book of your 3 is Spontaneous Evolution, your treatise on how to change the planet. Wonderful
Actually,
book.
it's kind of fun for me, because most people really get into the biology of belief, but for me it was like, wow, this biology of belief is what really shaped our civilization, because it's all based on belief. And then when you start to see how beliefs over the years, as they've changed, civilizations change, then you realize that our civilization is predicated on what we believe, and when those beliefs change, our civilization changes. And that's why you and I talking at this time is so auspicious, because the beliefs that we've been living by for the last 50 or more years are now in upheaval. Right. And new beliefs are coming forth, which will also then generate a new way of living on this planet.
Brilliant. Bring it on.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
And then, of course, your last masterpiece, The Honeymoon Effect.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. Can you say a bit to the audience about that book?
Well, the significance about that is most of us had some experience of falling in love at some time in our lives. And what I really want people to understand is this: no matter how your life was before you met that special person, no matter, well, life sucks and it's not really going great and it's all so much trouble, then you meet this one person and you fall in love, and the next day it's like heaven on earth.
Life changes.
Life changes. And the whole idea that people didn't understand is this, is that we have been programmed. That's what the biology of belief talked about. But being in love is tantamount to taking the red pill in the Matrix.
Right.
The Matrix says we've been programmed, and I always joke about it because I say, oh, people look for the Matrix, they look in science fiction. I go, no, the Matrix is a documentary. We have been programmed. And the interesting thing about it is, well, the red pill experience, almost everybody's had that. And I said, when was that? And I said, the moment we fell in love, we stopped defaulting to the program.
Right.
And at that moment, that's when our lives became healthy and happy and heaven on earth.
Right.
And then, unfortunately, we slip back into the program, and then the honeymoon seems to disappear. But the simple reality is, if you understand this, you can change those programming beliefs that we got in our subconscious. And if you rewrite them with the wishes and desires of the conscious mind, then it says, and this is the great part, your honeymoon doesn't have to be just a short-term thing. You can have a honeymoon experience, a juicy life experience every day of your life, or as long as you live on this planet.
Bring it on.
And that's the exciting part about it.
Yeah, great. It's a great book. It's a great read. If you haven't read it, check it out. And these books are all available on DVD and CD as well.
Absolutely.
Great. That's fantastic. So there'll be links on my website to this and links to Bruce's website too. So I've come to ask Bruce a few questions about specifics in the field of quantum physics, quantum biology, and quantum medicine. And as many of you are aware from reading Bruce's books and Deepak Chopra's books and Greg Braden's books, there's a new wave that's sweeping the planet. We're all swept up in it, whether we know it or not. So might as well be conscious about it. And I want to hear what Bruce has to say about some of the trends since he wrote The Biology of Belief 10 years ago. So Bruce, firstly, can you just briefly give a discussion of what is epigenetics and why is it so important?
Okay. Epigenetics is a revolution on our planet for civilization for a very simple reason. When I was teaching in medical school, we were teaching the concept of genetics. And that was the belief that genes had some power in controlling our lives. So we
puppet master.
Oh yeah, and this is what the problem is, because when we teach people that genes control their lives, then we're programming them to be victims Because, well, you didn't pick the genes as far as you know. And if you don't like the traits and qualities that you have, you can't change the genes. And then you realize, well, my life is being controlled by these things and I have no control over them. And that takes a position making us powerless. Oh, I can't. Cancer is the genes, not me. Right. Heart disease is the genes, not me.
So it's not taking ownership of it, is it?
Well, no, because when you're a victim, you have no responsibility.
Right. And no power either.
Oh, no power, yeah, but that's that's the unfortunate part. So I was teaching that in medical school to medical doctors who then pass it on to their patients. That, I'm sorry, this is out of your control. Cancer, we take care of it. You're the patient. We are the healers. And what is epigenetics? Well, when we talk about genetics, and at the time it was called genetic determinism, and it means genetic control. And I say, well, what's genetic control? Well, it's easy. Control by genes. That's what the story was. So my life is controlled by genes. So that at the moment of conception, apparently my future is somewhat predetermined by the genes that I end up in that zygote. And I go, well, that's what we've been programming. But the new science is epigenetics. Now people say, that sounds almost exactly the same as genetics. I go, no, here's what the difference is. Epi, the prefix, little tiny prefix, is the revolution because epi means above.
Right.
So when I say genetic control, the old story, control by genes, and that's what people believe. The new story is called epigenetic control. And I say, what does that mean? Well, it means control above the genes. And this is where we're beginning to find out that the environment and how we respond to the environment, our perception of the environment, is actually what controls our genetics. And I go, well, wow, that's the revolution for the following reason. Old story, genetic control, genes control you, you're a victim. New story, epigenetic control. It says, well, you're the one that can change the environment.
Right.
You're the one that can change your perception. And if those are the things that control life, then by definition, we're not victims. We are masters of our biology.
Power to the people.
Exactly what it's all about. So we go from victim to master, and that's the profound revolution when people start to realize that their health issues
Right.
are not predetermined by genetics, but really about how they're living their lives.
So this is a fundamental tenet and concept in the new world, the new biology, the new medicine, that we are completely in control of our lives.
Absolutely, and
On
it is a
all levels.
revolution
On all levels.
because people have no belief of that right now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, a cancer gene is, I have cancer gene running. So you have somebody like Angelina Jolie. She says, oh, I've had this cancer gene in my family, and my mother had the cancer, my grandmother had the cancer, and because of the concept of genes controlling life, she says, well, I'm going to get the cancer, so what am I going to do? I have a double mastectomy to prevent the cancer. And now she also just realized that it also can arise from the reproductive tract, like the uterus and the ovaries. So now she says, oh, I didn't take those out. Now she's going to have fallopian tubes and ovaries removed out of the system. Yeah. And then I'm so sorry, because that gives women the impression that, oh, you have the gene, you're a victim, the cancer is going to come and get you. What nobody really talks about, and to me this is why we're here, 50% of the women with the same genes never get the cancer. Yeah. And why is that relevant? Yeah. Well, if 50% of the women have the gene and they don't get the cancer, then the first conclusion is the gene did not cause the cancer.
It hasn't expressed.
No, that's it. And the idea was then the gene might influence the cancer, but itself does not cause the cancer. So why worry about the gene? Let's worry about what was the influence that engages the gene. And then all of a sudden you realize, I don't need to deal with the cancer. I just have to adjust my life to not be a person who would select that fate out of my genes.
Exactly. So that's a very important point. And unfortunately for Angelina, she's obviously getting very slanted advice.
Yeah, but I have to tell you the honest truth, David, is that if Angelina did not have that mastectomy, she would have a profound case of cancer.
Yes.
Because her belief...
Yeah.
Her perception is, I'm going to get the cancer. Well, when we understand the new biology, it's your perceptions that are translated into behavior and genetics. So she was so strongly committed to getting the cancer that when I heard that and I realized, I said, for her, with that belief,
it's the right thing to do.
That was the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, that has convinced a lot of other women that maybe they should be doing that. And that's quite unfortunate.
It certainly has. It certainly has. So the key here is, there seems to be, as I stand on the sidelines as a nutritional scientist, there's a schism going on in science where the modern new wave people get it, but the old school doesn't get it.
Right.
Is that going to change? Is it ever going to shift?
Yeah, because what you already said the word old school.
Right, they're going to die out.
They're going to die out. You know, Thomas Kuhn, talking about changes in paradigms, really brought up the fact that civilization changes occur tombstone by tombstone.
Yes.
Meaning, if these people have this commitment to this, they're going to hold that to the very day they die.
Right.
But young people, and this is the cool part, because there's a no generation of people growing up, and they are not taken in by the same old story.
No, they're not.
And this is great because this says, look, there's a growing civilization underneath the existing one,
Yes.
which has a different belief system entirely.
Totally, yeah.
And those are the ones that will be empowered.
Right.
And the old ones, they're going to just follow their way and go, except some of us old guys, you know, we've changed our ways, and look what happened. Our lives have profoundly changed in every aspect.
Blossomed.
Yeah. And it's kind of fun for me because I used to teach in a medical school to now come out here and go, man, let's don't knock medicine for this reason, because I used to teach there. So let's make it straight right here. I'm going to tell you what it is. The allopathic medical profession does miracles.
Yes.
With trauma. Yeah. If I get in a car accident, no chiropractor is going to help me fix my bones and sew me up. You know,
ambulance at the bottom of the cliff stuff.
Yeah, that's it. You know, no massage therapy, no homeopathy.
No
I want that MD
Yeah.
and that sutures and
Stitch
surgical needles.
Yeah.
I want them.
Yeah, yeah.
But when it comes to things like cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, all these other issues,
Chronic diseases,
here's the one important reality. They have not fully understood the nature from the genetic way up, because they have a misperception that genes create this. And listen, I taught in a medical school, okay? I have to give them credit for one thing, is they were programmed to take every word I said, and that was the law of God. And why is that relevant? Because if I look back and say, what was I teaching medical students back then, and what do I know today? I say, oh my God, I was teaching them misinformation. I was teaching them current understanding at the time.
Right.
And so what's the important reality? Well, my graduates are doctors, right? But what are they operating from? A belief that I know is now wrong.
Right.
And you know, bless them, but their commitment to hold on to a belief is like concrete. And they, like other people, resistant to change. So they're really, for me, not the resource if you really want to deal with those kind of issues of health other than trauma.
Yeah, and like the question often my patients, when I do a live blood analysis in my clinic, I do a VLA test, and I do a chakra analysis, and they say, why doesn't my doctor do this?
Yeah.
And I say, well, that's a very good question. And then that, which gives me a segue into my next question, is how much of an influence is Big Pharma on modern allopathic medicine?
It is so big.
Isn't it?
It is so big and monumental, but it's like the elephant in the room.
Right.
It's there, nobody really paying attention, but the fact is this. Look, I worked in the community. I was a medical science researcher.
Right.
I got grants. I did my work, okay? Interesting thing is that the funding today and the belief system of what we should be studying is really in the hands of the pharmaceutical industry because of the power of their money.
Right.
They're totally influential.
Totally.
Now, the significance about this is if the drug industry is the one pushing medical research, then by definition, what they're pushing is more drugs.
Exactly.
Because that's what they do for a living.
That's what makes sense.
Let's make a simple analogy, because this one most people are familiar with. I say, well, we're all aware there's many other ways to create energy besides burning fossil fuel.
Yeah.
And I say, well, how come we're not utilizing them? And the answer is, it's not in the interest of the fossil fuel industry with all that money that sells fuel. Why should they give away energy from the sun when they could sell you fuel? And then I say, now we just take that, move it over to the pharmaceutical industry, and I say, we can heal with energy, and this is a real fact. We can heal with our mind, and we can do all this. I say, why is not the pharmaceutical industry behind this? And the answer is because you can put it in a capsule. You can't make a drug for sale out of it. They have no use for it. They sell drugs. So the simple logic is, why would an industry that sells drugs say, oh, let's forget the drugs and start healing by energy?
Yeah, exactly.
And all of a sudden you realize they have a vested interest in it. Now, that's number one. So they manipulate the unfoldment of research by where they put their interest and where they put their money.
Precisely.
Okay, and now number two, people don't recognize this, and it was an article in the British Journal of Medicine, and it was this. They looked at research that was funded from government money, and the same research on the same topic funded by drug company money. And they found, surprisingly, that when the drug company sponsored the research, the results came out between 4 and 5 times more in their favor of the research than when the same research was done without any money from the drug company.
Surprise, surprise.
So, it's not that, okay, these scientists are saying, oh, the drug money, they gave me the money, I'm going to give them the results. It's in their subconscious mind. Yeah. I'm being funded by them.
Right.
Why would I put out research that conflicts with my funding?
You wouldn't do it.
So it's cherry-picking data.
Of course.
And it says, oh, here's the data that supports the people that give me the money.
Yeah.
And the British Medical Journal clearly came out and said that. So what's the point? The point is there is an intrusion into the medical field by a corporate interest whose drive is for their perpetuation, but not for our health. And people really have to understand that, because it's sort of like the story of, oh, that's a friendly banker. It's like, well, there's no such thing as a friendly banker unless you have lots of money. If you have lots of money, then they're your friend. You don't have any money, they're not so friendly all of a sudden, Well, it's like, oh, you're a friendly pharmaceutical company who's out there for your health. And the answer is, they're not there for your health. They're there for the bottom line. Yeah. And the bottom line is this. You mean if I can sell a drug, and this is true, they do research on a drug, and they find out, oh my God, one of the side effects is death. You think, okay, in a normal
it's pretty
moral...
serious side effect.
Yeah, you say in a moral system, you say, oh, okay, we better not deal with this drug. I didn't say the pharmaceutical company was moral. They're a corporation.
Yeah.
Corporations are called people, but they have no morality.
Exactly.
And I say, why is it relevant? Because I know this from people who worked in the industry. If they make a drug and the side effect is death, and one of those big side effects, will they market the drug? And the answer is they have a team of specialists that do all the bean counting. And what they do is they find out how many units of the drug they can sell versus how many lawsuits they will receive from people who died. And they weigh it out. And they say, if we can make a lot more money than the lawsuits we have to pay out, then fine, market the drug. And I say, oh, then you're knowingly putting a drug in the market that's going to kill people. And they go, yeah, but we make a profit.
Like the tobacco industry.
Same people. And this is why we have to really understand, and this is one of the things that I really love about New Zealand, is that living in the States, I can see every minute of my life how corporate interests override public interests. Yeah. And so far, it's not really that way in New Zealand. It's moving in,
right,
but it's not here yet.
No.
And why is it relevant? Because then people like you, people like me, and the public, we can have a dialogue about our health without the undue influence of a corporate interest that wants to redirect that.
Yes.
And that's why I encourage you in your book, David, is because the public needs this. And I know that it's hard to get this information out because the industry is antagonistic to you, and antagonistic to me, and obviously to the public.
Yeah. Thank you, Bruce. That's a most enlightening answer. So, in other words, this whole thing about Big Pharma, it's not all conspiracy theory. It's a reality going on. I see it in my practice every day. We see it when we read journals and papers, and it's
David, everywhere we look,
Yeah.
One of the big things which I've been talking about, and I edited in my new version of the book, is the Statin Story.
Yes, that's a classic.
The first thing is this:
that's in my book.
I need statins for how long? How long are you going to live?
Yes, exactly.
Oh my Jesus! You mean it's a lifetime prescription for this drug?
Yeah.
I go, how effective is it?
Ah.
Less than 3% of the people that take statins have any influence of that statin on their lives. Yeah. 97% of lifetime prescriptions have no influence on those people's lives other than the side effects, which are greater in percentage influence than the effectiveness of the drug.
Epigenetics.
I think the effectiveness of the drug is about 3%, and the side effect influence is 15% or more.
Yeah, easy.
So,
easy.
And therefore it's sort of like, oh my God, just sell it on television.
Yeah.
And people feel, oh my goodness, that drug company wants to take care of me. And I say, no, they just want to take care of your bank account.
Yeah. There's a whole chapter on statins in the book. There's also a whole big section on low-sec and some of the common drugs that I think should be banned, basically.
Absolutely.
Anyway, we talk more about that. Have a look at the book. So, next question, Bruce, is why has natural medicine become so popular in Western culture and around the globe? There's a huge upswing in it.
Yes.
People are voting with their feet and their money.
Yes.
Why?
Well, it's very interesting because when we look at it in the United States, which is now more than 50% of the population will seek complementary alternative healing. And when they did the assessment is, how did that number get so big?
Right.
The first thing was this. is that people who received some kind of treatment and whose lives are changed, compared it to their medical experience,
Right.
and found, oh my God, this is the thing that worked. What did they do? They tell all their friends and their community and their families. And it
Spreads
turns
organically.
out that the power of the system is because of the success of the system. Not advertising, no commercial input at all. It's just basically recognizing that they finally found a source to deal with their issue that was primarily so much more effective than medicine that they can't wait to tell all their friends about it. Exactly. So the idea is, what's the difference? And the difference is this, that you're more likely today, for especially the chronic illnesses, not the trauma, that you'll get beneficial relief from an alternative complementary practitioner more so than from drugs. And it's unfortunate because, let's deal with a fact. and this is a fact, because the medical profession has even declared this fact about themselves. In the Journal of the American Medical Association, Dr. Barbara Starr Fisher wrote, with conservative estimates, she said, that the fatalities from medicine treatment, iatrogenic illness, is the third leading cause of death in the United States, and that's published.
I think it's the second.
Well, actually, when because I said she put in conservative estimates,
right,
and Gary Null said, wait, instead of giving me estimates, there's data everywhere. Let's just collect the data. When he put the data together, it revealed that medicine was the leading cause of death.
The leading cause.
The leading cause of death.
Oh, my God.
And
So
just pharmaceutical drugs alone in the United States, 300,000 people die from prescription drugs.
What happened to first do no harm?
Well, that's for the doctor, but not for the pharmaceutical company.
How convenient.
They never took that oath.
And I believe now that, and certainly in New Zealand, doctors are no longer taking the Hippocratic Oath.
Is that right? They stopped doing that?
I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that they no longer do it.
Well, they obviously saw the danger of practicing and then violating the oath.
Yeah. Wow.
So natural medicine is on its move because it's effective, it's safe, and people are very pleased with this.
Right.
Compared to dumping themselves into this medical arena.
Right. So next question's about mind-body medicine. This is a term that's been bandied around a lot.
Yeah.
Can you explain briefly what that is and why it's so important? Because it's a pivot point in shifting the paradigm, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, look, as a scientist and as a professor in a medical school, I was teaching according to conventional curriculum.
Right.
And the curriculum looks at the human body as a machine made out of proteins and nucleic acids and sugars
Newtonian
and things. It's a machine, a mechanism. And when you compare it to machines, the idea is machines have no self-consciousness to them. They're just machines. And they look at the body as a machine. I say, well, why is it relevant? Because when you have a machine, there's a statement, use it and lose it. Meaning, if it's a machine, the more you use it, the more it's going to break down. The more it's going to break down, the more repair you're going to have to do and put into it. So medicine looks at the body as a machine, takes the mind out of the picture because that was part of a quantum world. It's not a Newtonian world because energy does not feed back into matter. So it's sort of like they look at the body like a radio. The mind is a show. And I say, well, what about the show? I said, well, the show doesn't come back and change the radio.
No.
So the mind goes out like a show, but it doesn't change the body. So mind was left out of the equation for medicine. And it was interesting because when I was at Stanford and I was writing a research paper, I used the word mind. You should have seen my colleagues. They went apoplectic. It's like, you cannot use the word mind. It's not scientific. And so that's just a review of the fact that they still look at it as a machine. Here's the issue. When you start to understand epigenetics, and you start to understand that the cells of the body, the genetics and behavior of the cells of the body, are responding to the chemistry of the blood, which is the culture medium.
Right.
Then you have to say, well, who controls the chemistry of the blood? And I go, well, the brain. The brain's the chemist that makes the composition of my blood. And I go, in my research, even with stem cells, I revealed that changes in the composition of the growth medium, which is the equivalent of blood, would change the genetics and behavior of the cell. And this was relevant because when I put genetically identical cells in different environments with different culture medium, they had different fate.
Yeah.
And why is that important? Because, well, if the genes are controlling life, I had genetically identical cells in all the cultures. They should all come out the same.
Right.
But
But they don't.
genetically identical, but changed the culture medium, which is the equivalent of blood, to chemistry a little bit, and I changed the fate of the cell. So all of a sudden it said, genes did not control the fate of that cell, the environment.
Yeah.
And then I say, well, the culture medium. And I say, yeah, but when I'm, as a cell biologist, when I make culture medium, my quest is to get the blood of the organism from where the cells come from, try to assess the composition of that blood, and then make a synthetic culture medium based on the blood.
Yeah.
Okay, so blood is the culture medium. So I got blood in my body. I got 50 trillion cells in my body, so I like to refer to my body as a skin-covered petri dish with 50 trillion cells.
Yeah.
And I have culture medium called blood, and then I say, but the chemistry of the blood is derived from the brain.
Yes.
And then the question's simple. You ask me, well, what chemistry should the brain put in the blood? And then we take the next step, and I say, what's the mind thinking? Because it's interpretation that the mind offers that leads to the chemistry.
Perception is your reality.
Perception is turned into chemistry.
Right.
You know, when we were young, there was paint by numbers. Remember that?
Yep.
And you have the outline with all the numbers, and then
Yep.
the paints had different color numbers, and then you filled it in, and then lo and behold, you end up with this picture.
Yep.
Here's the fun joke. The mind is paint by numbers in reverse.
Oh, really? That's a good analogy.
It takes a picture,
Right.
and it breaks it down into the colors.
Right.
But the colors are the hormones and the growth factors and the factors that come from the brain. And so the mind has a picture, and what does the brain do? Break it down into the paints, the chemistry. And then that chemistry goes into the culture medium and say, well, why is that relevant? Because the chemistry is a reflection of the picture.
Right.
So, very simply, it's like when you look at your partner and you see her, you get a flooding of chemistry in your body.
Yes.
It comes from the perception, the belief of love.
Yeah.
And love releases these great healthy chemicals in the body.
Yeah.
It changes the culture medium. And that's why the moment somebody falls in love and people say, oh, look how they glow. Look how healthy they are. I go, that's not a coincidence or chance.
No.
That's because in a state of love, the chemistry released by the brain, it goes into the blood that controls the cells epigenetically. That chemistry enhances health.
Yeah.
But I say, wait. Instead of seeing your partner, you open up your eyes and you see something that threatens you. All of a sudden, the chemistry that you release when you're in love from the brain is not the chemistry that comes from fear.
No.
Fear causes stress hormones, inflammatory agents, and they go into the blood. And as a matter of fact, you can feel it in your body because the moment you feel fear, you can feel the tingling through your body. You're changing the chemistry, and the cells are now changing their behavior.
Yes.
Okay? So all of a sudden, the concept is then the culture medium, which in experiments that I revealed controls behavior and genetics, that the culture medium in your body called blood, the composition of that changes based on your belief. Do I believe in love? Do I believe in fear? What's the difference? Well, chemically profound.
Yeah, exactly.
And the result is profound. Why? Simple. I
Yin
take
and
the
yang.
chemicals released from a brain in love and put it into a plastic petri dish, the cells grow exuberantly well.
As they would, yeah.
But if I take the chemicals released from a brain that's in stress and put those stress chemicals in the culture dish, my cells stop growing and start dying. And no kidding, haven't we heard forever? Fear kills. And I can tell you, chemically, I can show it to you. Put the fear chemicals in the dish and you're going to kill the cells.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden it
The
says...
mind is everything.
The mind is everything. And this is why this is a whole new biology. We're not going to look at the genes and blame them anymore. But we have to take responsibility about what thoughts we have.
Right.
And what we believe about the world, because we're going to take those beliefs, convert them into chemistry, and then create a body and a biology and a behavior that is complementary to that belief. So if you live in fear, then you're going to put a protection wall around you.
You bet.
To take care of your life.
Yeah.
And that will happen chemically. So basically, mind-body. People say, what's the connection between mind-body? Because the science says, oh, there's no mind, that's just energy. Now we know it's completely different. The mind is like a pharmacist. It takes its image and converts it into chemistry drugs that go through our body and adjust our biology to match what we see.
Yeah.
And why is that important? Because then if we understand that, then if we acquire responsibility, if I become responsible for what I see, if I want to change my belief about what I see, I can change my life. How fast? Something called spontaneous remission. What's the spontaneous remission?
Yeah.
Here, a patient that's terminal, and all of a sudden,
Cancer's gone.
Cancer's gone. How'd that happen? Every one of those cases is accompanied by a profound change in belief and behavior.
Yes. And lifestyle.
And then you go, okay, so there's a real mind-body influence. I go, yeah, well, listen, medicine's talked about it for 100 years. They just don't want to talk about it too loud. They've understood it for 100 years. It's called the placebo effect.
Yeah.
I give you a pill, tell you it's going to heal you, you get well, then I tell you it's a sugar pill, then you're only left with, well, then what healed me? Well, obviously it wasn't the pill.
Your beliefs.
It was your belief. And everyone goes, oh, yeah, the placebo effect. Well, that's mind over matter.
Exactly.
But here's the part that I just need to bring up in this video. Because everyone says, oh, yeah, that's a positive belief resulting in a positive healing. And I go, what about a negative belief? Nobody talks about that.
No.
But here's the
Placebo
most
effect,
important thing. A negative belief is equally powerful to a positive belief, but works in the opposite direction. A positive belief can heal you. A negative belief can kill you.
Yeah.
And this is why belief becomes so important. And yet, as we talked about, the pharmaceutical industry is not interested in that stuff. As a matter of fact, they don't even like the placebo effect because it interferes with their drug testing.
Yeah, it would do.
Yeah, and so basically they'd be real happy if the placebo effect didn't really work because they could say, look, see, my drug worked, but it turns out placebos inevitably have a greater influence than the actual drugs that they test.
Yeah. Good answer. Thank you, Bruce.
Oh, David,
Thank
I
you.
love this stuff.
So it gets even juicier.
Oh, yeah.
So do you think science will ever embrace the unseen dimensions?
Yeah, but I wouldn't hold my breath.
It's not going to happen anytime soon.
It could happen soon, but it's only going to happen when the public changes. Look, the public votes with their money. Where you put your money, those people that receive that money are going to return some influence.
Right.
If we keep putting our money in the pharmaceutical industry, then they're just going to keep making more drugs. Once we start to acquire the awareness of mind over matter, once we start to acquire the understanding of energy medicine, energy healing, then we won't put our money into that. And when we don't put our money into that, that thing will finally start to dry up and do the thing that it was supposed to do, rather than what it's doing now, which is, hey, once they made the drugs for all the standard diseases, the market ended, so what did they do? They manifested a whole bunch of new diseases.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they are creating diseases which they already have a product they can sell you for.
Exactly.
I'd love to see that disappear.
Yeah, wouldn't we all?
Yeah.
Wouldn't we all? So, Einstein said there is no science without religion, and there's no religion without science. Do you think science will eventually develop a concept of spirituality and God?
Yeah, now, when you use the word religion and spirituality in the same sentence, that's a little confusing.
Well, take the dogma out of religion. I mean,
Oh,
I think
wow.
what he meant by religion
Then
was
you don't have any
spirituality.
religion left when you take the dogma out of it. The idea of spirituality is universal. I don't care what religion you are. If there's a spiritual component to it, that's a universal component. So religion is, from my way of looking at it, the business of spirit.
Yeah.
Okay?
Big Pharma of medicine.
That's exactly what it is. Give us money and we'll cover your hereafter. Okay, great. The reality is, will this come together? And the answer is, inevitably it has to, because quantum physics, when it first came out in 1925, the original quantum physicists, they were the ones that said, oh my God, this world isn't the physical mechanical world. This world is built on consciousness.
Energy.
And energy. It's consciousness and energy. We change our consciousness, we change the universe. Well, if there isn't anything, I can't think of anything more spiritual than that my thoughts are going to change the universe.
Exactly.
And this is science and quantum physics. It's been held back because it's not in the interest of the money people that are controlling the field right now.
We're stuck in 3D, that
Absolutely.
materialism.
And yet, science is science. It is working its way through right now.
It is. I agree with you 100%. So we will also talk about spirituality, talk about self-realization and enlightenment. Now, there's a sacred science behind this. And my question is, and I guess you can't really answer it, but I'm interested to hear your
I'd love
thoughts.
to hear the answer. Oh, I don't have
Wouldn't
it.
we all? Wouldn't we all? When is science going to wake up to this fact of self-realization and enlightenment, that we can achieve super consciousness and superpowers when we align ourselves with the divine?
Well, I think science is already open a little bit, but then you have to look at science. Look, as a scientist, anything I did in a laboratory required money.
Right.
Okay? Then all of a sudden, as we mentioned earlier, well, who's giving you the money? And the idea is, if you get money from an interest that has an interest in the outcome, then they've already some way predetermined the outcome.
It's tainted,
Okay? What we need is money from the public that is not tainted by a corporate interest. And the moment that happens, it's the public that caused the National Institute of Health in the United States to have a complementary alternative medicine department. Although it was just a token gesture, the fact was this: if it wasn't from the outcry of the public said, we want that research,
It would never have happened.
It would never happen.
Yeah.
So they did that, said, oh, here's a few dollars, but that was just
500 million.
Yeah, it's not like the drug research,
billions.
But the fact was that will keep the public quiet. There's a little, department in there. But why is it important? Because it's more young people, which are the ones that I see the hope of our world coming
from. And they're making
from.
waves.
They're making waves, and they're not caught up in the old paradigm. And they're the ones that are going to make the decision of not doing this.
Yeah, great.
And that's so our future is kind of bright.
It is, isn't it? Bring
Yeah.
it on. Bring
Yeah.
it on. Okay, so last few questions. For the audience that may not know this maybe not have read your books yet,
Okay.
they will eventually. What is quantum biology? What is quantum medicine in a nutshell?
Okay, in a nutshell is, let's start with what is Newtonian biology and Newtonian medicine,
Right.
because that's a world based on the physics of Newton, which was a mechanical physical world. An invisible world they knew existed, an energy type world, but they said that the energy world didn't talk and communicate with the physical world. So whatever your thoughts are, your beliefs, your attitudes and all that, in their belief system would not affect the physical body, because they looked at a physical realm and an energetic realm as two separate entities.
Yeah.
Quantum physics comes in 1925 and says, what you call matter, it's not really matter. And you go, what do you mean it's not matter? Well, in the old days, Newtonian world, the atom was the fundamental unit of matter.
Right.
And in 1895, when they started to look and say, what's inside that atom?
Right.
And they, there's some electrons and protons and neutrons. Oh, smaller particles. But then
Quarks and neutrinos, yeah.
they said quarks and neutrinos are making up the electrons, protons, and neutrons. And I said, well, what's a quark? It's not physical. It's an energy vortex. It's like a cyclone or a tornado of energy. And I go, why is it relevant? The fundamental building blocks of the atom, which we perceive to be physical, is actually energy.
It's non-physical.
It's non-physical.
Yeah.
And then people out there in the television land looking at us right now are going, yeah, but I can see you guys right there.
Right.
And then I have to go very quickly. I say, if there was no light in here, you wouldn't see me. And you go, what the heck does that mean? I go, light photons bounce off of energy. So while I see a surface on you, it's only the light that hits you and then bounces back to my eye.
That you're seeing.
Underneath that surface, it's not, there's energy, there's nothing physical in there. So I'm not seeing you, I'm seeing a reflection of energy, okay? And this becomes very critical because we have to let go that there's a physical world and a non-physical world and own what quantum physics says. They're all one and the same. And then when you understand that, then the energy that's invisible out here can affect the energy that is visible right here. And all of a sudden it's, yes, mind and matter become one.
So, Bruce, last couple of questions.
Yeah.
When do you think humanity will really get the impact of the new science on quantum medicine, quantum biology, quantum physics on everyday life?
Well,
It'll filter down to the common people.
Now, there's two ways to look at this. You can look at it as like drips of information dripping into a system. How long will it take the drips? The fact is, in biological systems, there are things called thresholds. You can build something up and it doesn't look like it's changing, but one more drop and boom, whole thing changes. So the belief that this is going to be the slowest, gradual, very slow accumulation of a new idea is an idea, but it's not real. We're building up to it and you say, yeah, but I don't see anything changing. I go, no, because all it takes is a certain one more drop and then this thing changes.
Right.
And so we're going to reach a threshold where it's just going to be like an overnight thing. It's going to look like, well, it's not changing. And then overnight, it'll just reach a critical level and jump.
It's like 9/11. One day you wake up and it's all changed.
That's exactly what it's about. And we have to do that because the world is facing the sixth mass extinction of life.
Right.
And it's due to human behavior. So basically, science says, well, our behavior is causing our own extinction. I say, well, what are you going to do about it? And the answer is, well, you can continue the behavior, which looks like we're doing. I go, yeah, well, that's going to accelerate the extinction. Or the only way out is to change the belief system. So we don't have hundreds of years to think about this. This extinction is looming in decades. So how soon will this change take place? Man, within a decade or two, this world's going to flip-flop overnight. It'll be a positive 911 instead of a negative 911.
Yeah, right. Bring that on.
Yeah.
Bring that on. Okay. And last question. How do you see, this is a big one, how do you see the new sciences will impact on the future of humanity?
Well, it's real interesting because we're going to talk about evolution for a second. That's a spontaneous evolution book.
Great book, by the way. I think it's your best book.
Actually, I enjoy it myself.
Yeah.
But what's real interesting about it says we are facing an evolution. You say, oh, what, the physical human is going to change? And I go, no, it's not an evolution of physicality. It's an evolution of consciousness.
Right.
And I say, why is that relevant?
Right.
Because in the Darwinian world that we live in, we see ourselves as independent agents in competition and a struggle for life. That's the fundamental principle of Darwinian theory.
Right.
We're in a struggle for existence. What the new biology says is the evolution is not the evolution of us as individuals, it's the evolution of the community of humans. Just look, and there was a time in the history of the planet where there were only single-celled organisms, amoebas and bacteria. That's all that were here. And I say, well, what happened? Well, there was a point where the evolution, you couldn't make a smarter amoeba. That was the problem. And I say, well, why? Because we created amoeba with intelligence, but it reached the maximum amount. It's a physical limitation of intelligence. I say, oh, so then evolution stopped. And I go, well, yeah, actually it did, because I couldn't make a smarter amoeba. But evolution took a different tact. It said, what if I bring together amoebas and make a community, a colony of amoebas? I said, why is that relevant? Well, if every amoeba has, let's say, intelligence X, then how much intelligence in 30 amoebas? I go, at least 30X. Well, that's more than X. And I said, so evolution created greater intelligence by bringing individuals together and making a body. So we have 50 trillion amoebas. I said, what can 50 trillion amoebas do? They can create a rocket ship and go to the moon. Okay? And I say, well, okay, then what happened? I said, well, then the humans formed. I said, well, what happened? As individual organisms like the amoeba, we reached a maximum capacity of our intelligence.
Right.
You say, oh, then evolution stopped. I go, yeah, well, essentially it did, but it's now changing its tact. And what is that? People coming together to share awareness. And the more people that come together, the greater awareness. And what you're seeing is a coming together of people, the world that is coming together in such great numbers, that our technology is not like slowly going uphill like that. Our technology is going like that right now. Why? Because as more numbers come together, more awareness from every individual contributing to the collective whole. So here's the point. Just as amoebas led to a community of 50 trillion amoebas making a human organism, 7 billion humans as cells are coming together to create a superorganism called humanity. That's the evolution. When we finally realize you, me, everyone out there is a cell in a body that's coming together, then our capabilities as a human race will, it's called emergence, will create things that you cannot even imagine at this moment. And this is where the evolution jump comes from.
Right, like the iPhone, how that changed things.
Oh, I mean, God, look, unfortunately, I can remember before television was there. And so from my point of view, it was like, hey, there was a radio, and now there's a guy on the moon. Man, that happened in a very short time period.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah, and that is an expression of global populations coming together to share awareness. Yeah. And so we're going to make this this organism, and this is what the internet is all about.
Right.
Because the internet is the evolution of the global nervous system. You can't hook 7 billion cells together unless you can connect them.
Exactly.
And now all of a sudden we have a mechanism of connecting the entire population of the world all at once.
So exponential growth.
And that's what it's all about, because now everybody's sharing. And so and this is really important for me just to add this, is because when we look at the world right now and we say, oh my God, there's crises everywhere. We're losing species of organisms faster than ever. Peak fuel. We're now at peak water. We're running out of water.
California's got a serious problem.
Yeah, I live there, so it is a serious problem. Yeah. And I go, well, okay, we're running out of fuel. We're running out of water. We're running out of animals. The production in food is terrible. It's industrial chemistry at this point. It's like, and every crisis I turn around and go, oh my God. And if you looked at that and you get caught in the crisis, you would go, oh, this is really scary. And I go, no, no, it's not scary, David, for a very important reason. We want to change the world and create a world we can live in.
Right on.
It's already been demonstrated that the world we have is causing the extinction. So what's the point? You cannot build a sustainable, thrivable world on a world that is building itself now with the behaviors we have now.
And self-destructive, yeah.
It is self-destructive. So that humanity that I'm looking for to evolve is suffering from autoimmune disease. The cells are killing each other in the body of humanity.
Yeah.
And I say, when you see the world falling apart, I'm the guy that is so excited by that. I'm not,
Yeah.
Why?
Exactly.
Because if it doesn't fall apart, we won't be able to build a sustainable world.
Right.
We'll still be stuck with the old beliefs that are causing the destruction of the current
The
world.
old has to die for the new to
Right.
rise.
So rather than fearing the change, I really want people to understand this is a time to welcome and, open arms. Let's bring it on, babe, because the future is so potentially beautiful when we get out of the current.
Yes.
And because I'm closing in this, I really want to thank you because we've known each other for a few years now.
We have.
And I want to say how much I appreciate your efforts, David.
Thank you.
Of bringing new consciousness to this world. Why? Knowledge is power.
It is.
And what we really have to emphasize is a lack of knowledge is a lack of power. And we have been deprived of knowledge about who we are and how we operate and work.
So
and that
true.
has made us powerless.
Yeah. We've been taking the blue pill for too long.
Oh, that's it. And now you are my red pill, babes.
You're mine.
And so, let's collectively go out there and share that knowledge with everybody.
Yeah, I think in conclusion, I think the future's so bright, we've got to wear shades.
Oh, I so look forward to that. Thank you, my dear friend.
And thank you so much for being in New Zealand, Bruce. It's a blessing to have you here.
Oh, it's a blessing for me to be here.
Oh,
Thank you.
I'm so glad our government decided to give you the thumbs up. It's
I'm an
wonderful.
alien. I'm a unique alien.
You are.
I don't mind that label. Thank you
More
very
ways
much.
than one. Thank you so much, Bruce, for sharing your profound wisdom, and I hope that's given you lots of food for thought. And have a look at the links on the website. Check out Bruce's books, CDs, DVDs, and my book coming soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's make movies, babe.